Hey, Sunday morning. And I'm going for a morning walk. I haven't been walking too much recently because my feet, mostly my left foot, a lot of my foot has been acting up and getting sore when I walk. But yesterday I bought some decent shoes, I guess. They were $35, which for me is a lot to spend on shoes. I definitely noticed a difference because I had stopped wearing my sandals when I was walking before and started wearing socks and some old cheap tennis shoes that I had. I mean, they were cheap to begin with, and they're several years old now, so they didn't have a lot of cushion to them. And I've just wore these a couple of times, taking Ike out to walk since I bought him yesterday, and I was noticing a difference, although that spot on my bottom of my left foot is still a little sore just from that little bit of walking. But I'm going to go ahead and give it a try because I really miss walking, especially, I was walking 5 to 6 miles most mornings for a while, and I was kind of going to have to cut back on that anyway when school started, because my Tuesday and Thursday class starts at 9, and I just, with the way I screw around, waste time, I wasn't going to be able to have time to take much of a walk on those mornings. But then, when I tried again, even when I cut way back on the distance, still was finding the bottom of that foot getting a little tender. So, I realized probably one of the first things I should do is get some new shoes. Kind of makes sense to try that out first. I'm going to go talk with my doctor on Friday. I think it's Friday. I got a doctor's appointment, and it's one of the things I'm going to ask her about. I'd gotten some Epsom salts from the store and soaked my foot in that a little bit. I can remember my dad doing that long time ago, way back. I'm not exactly sure what was up with his feet. I remember he used to take a pocket knife and actually carve dead skin off the bottom of his feet. He used to like to, this is when Jay and I were pretty young, so of course it would freak us out. Fortunately, I don't even know if he gave us the warning, do not try this at home yourself, but even Jay didn't. Jay was the one that would experiment like that. As far as I know, even he didn't try to take a knife and try and carve on his foot. I guess we knew that, but we didn't understand how he could do that. We were so young and fresh. Our skin was beautiful. Don't have anything like old, hard, dead, callous skin at that age. I don't really have that now myself too much, although I have some pretty gross toenails. But it's a lot of stuff is getting gross on me. Yeah, when I was walking before I got these shoes, when I was still trying to do some walking, this street here, Waller Street, I was taking the bike from my house and riding it down to the lake to save some time and distance of walking, because I don't mind, I like walking through the neighborhood. I really like the area I live in, but if I was going to cut out part of the walk, it would be here rather than down by the lake, and that is nicer. Although one thing here is you don't have to worry about so many people running by you or whizzing by on their bikes or something like that. One of the problems about going down to the trail this morning is that although a lot of people will sleep in, or some people will be going to church or something on a Sunday morning, so you'd think maybe the trail would be not all that full, but I found that it's actually, I guess there's a lot of weekend recreators, either that or they or on the weekend, since they're not going to work, they get out onto the trail later, because I'm getting down there really later than I'd like to. I mean, it's past 9 o'clock now. Fortunately for me, we've had a little break in the heat here because it's cloudy mainly. Although we've hardly had a drop of rain. We really haven't had any rain at my house. I've heard some other areas have had a little bit of rain around Austin, but at least the cloudy weather has cooled it off here for a little while. It's only about 75 degrees right now. I think I mentioned this place when I was filming, when I was riding my bike. I kind of went by it pretty fast. Called 41 Waller. I took a picture of that corner there with the signs. Yeah, you can see it's for it's for white, younger professional people. They can't afford, maybe single probably. They can't afford to buy a house even over here on East Austin yet. So this was an apartment building when I first moved over here, for the first couple years maybe, but it was an old apartment building. I have no idea what the prices were, but I imagine they were pretty cheap apartments. Didn't look real run down or anything. It even had a pool, which I'm not sure was used at that time, but when they redid the place, I noticed that they kept the pool behind that truck there, that moving truck. There's a wall, cinder block wall, and in that little area is a little pool. But they didn't tear down the old building, but they left practically just a shell of a building. And like I said before, I think it was I don't know, it might have given them some tax advantage or something to be remodeling a building instead of new construction. I couldn't quite understand it, because it didn't seem like it was worth the effort to do what they did. I've seen that before in some houses down here where they don't tear down the whole house. Some cases it goes to ridiculous lengths. I think I've seen them leave one wall up. And I don't know the ins and outs of the zoning ordinances here, but it seems to me like it must have had something to do with that, or some kind of tax break, or some kind of fees that you got out of paying if you did it that way. This is a community garden. This is something I would like to get into maybe eventually. Festival Beach Community Garden, Jardin Communal. But this is new to the neighborhood since I've been here. It's only a few years ago that they first put this in, and looks pretty nice. You know, I'd eventually like to be able to grow some of my own vegetables and all, if it doesn't cost too much. And I'll have a little problem with getting, you know, I don't know, materials, gardening materials that you need to do it, since I don't have a vehicle. There's the bigger, more colorful sign. They had some kind of event down here in this area. I was thinking about going to it a few weeks ago. Like a lot of things, I end up not going. Where they were proposing, I forget what they called it. Basically, it would be an open vegetable garden that would be down in an area down here by the park, and volunteers from the community would plant it with vegetables and tend to it and all that, and then as things became available, ripened or whatever, anybody and everybody that wanted would come through there and pick whatever vegetables that were there. Wish I could remember the name of it. I watched a little clip from the local news that came down to cover the event. Something like something with forest in the name of it. Food forest. Maybe that was it. Yeah, I like the sound of that. It sounds good. It sounds like a pretty cool idea. I've heard that I think Portland, where else, has something like that. Maybe the only place so far. Hey, we're getting down here to the lake, walking under 35. Yeah, this is about a half mile, maybe a little bit more, walk from my house down to here. So that's a mile of the coming and going of my trip. But I just want to give these new shoes a little test and see how well I don't know, might be so it's a mile, maybe this walk. So I'm not going to really walk all that far down on the trail. Maybe a mile at the most, so that would be 2 miles, you know, maybe 3 miles. And that's pushing it. So probably well under half what I would normally walk, but I'm just gonna have to take it easy on this thing and not push it too much. I mean, it's gotten really sore at times. It seems strange to me. I don't understand what the difference is. I don't know if my sandals were that worn down when I started walking again, because it had been a couple years. I used to walk every day when I had my van, and I didn't have the bicycle. So once I got the bike, I thought, oh well, I don't need to walk anymore. I guess it took me 2 years to kind of realize how therapeutic this walk was. And it wasn't just a matter of exercise, although that's good. Because even if I rode my bike around for comparable, the equivalent amount of exercise and and distance, it wouldn't be the same as the benefits you get from walking like this. For one thing, when you walk, it's more conducive to thinking about things, and as you walk, it's a little bit like meditation in some ways. There's a certain amount of inertia in getting started, and you think that you don't want to do it. But then once you start it, it's a kind of a process of, the longer you do it, up to a point, the easier it gets, and the more benefits you feel from it. So I can start out walking and really not want to. I'd really not be too enthusiastic about it. But I know that if I just keep on putting one foot in front of the other, keep doing it, my mood will almost inevitably change. I mean, sometimes it won't change all that much for the better, but it's almost always a better day, and I feel better for the rest of the day when I take a walk. Same with the meditating and the other exercise at home. This is not too bad so far this morning, as far as the amount of people out. I'm not sure why. I was going to say the cloudiness, but that's keeping it cooler. There'll be more people down here. I don't even know what this isn't Waller Creek here. I don't know, that may not even go all that far up that way. It may just be a little estuary, if that's the right word. Oh, look there. Yeah, I'm not sure what caused that. Maybe we had some winds here recently, which enough to knock that down. This is cool. It's a little we're coming up to get past a little playground for the kids. Yeah, one thing about walking down here is, even though I'm complaining about the amount of people, it usually makes me feel less misanthropic. Although in general I'm a lot better about that than I used to be. I can remember way back when I used to walk on this trail. A lot of the times I would keep my head down. I hated the fact that there was anybody else on the trail. I needed to go walking, but I really didn't even want to see anybody, and much less say hello or smile at them. And I can remember actually thinking to myself, I just hate all these people. I hate everybody. But I pretty much never feel that way anymore. Not that strong. Like I say, sometimes I do get bugged by people, but I'm aware that These are my problems. It's not that there's anything wrong with people in general, really. Water. There's a very cool bathroom they built on this trail. I think they built that since I first came down here. Yeah. That little. Never noticed that before. They were telling everything about it. Oh yeah, it says November 2007. That's right, so I was down on this trail before that thing was built. And before all these places were built. Seriously. They were not there. That, of course, that one they're building over there now. That one there. This is around the, yep, that's a little street there. It's Rainy Street. It's part of this whole development of this area. They call it the Rainy Street District. They call it that because mainly it's one street. Rainy goes up that way, and when you get past these high rises, get into what once, even when I moved here in 2005, it was still an isolated residential neighborhood, very small. Like I said, mainly Rainy Street, and just a couple other small ones that ran off of it. And it was an enclave of Mexican American housing that was west of I-35, which was unusual. And it was right in it was practically across the street from the convention center. And I remember at that time when I first saw it, it was just odd and out of place, and I was wondering how long it would last. And you can't really say that it's disappeared now, but it's definitely not the same. There's hipsters have come in and bought the old places, rehabbed them. I guess I'm sure they got the city probably changed the zoning codes and all that to allow for commercial establishments. So there's maybe up to a dozen, maybe more, bars, and the restaurants are mainly these trailer type places, although it's a little misleading. You might think of a trailer that has food as garden variety cheap stuff, but they have pretty fancy stuff over there. Possibly it could be a zoning thing or just cost and all that. They have a Indian restaurant over in that neighborhood called the Garage Mahal. Ho ho. Because it actually is on the property that used to have a garage on it, a commercial garage. It looked like it was a small place kind of attached to somebody's house, where the guy was a mechanic and he had a small garage there to fix people's cars. There's some Austin's new big buildings. And this right here, this is pretty cool, and it's right by the Mexican American Cultural Center. Big marker there. I have not been inside of there yet. I'm sad to say I should have. I'm on their mailing list now, so maybe in not too distant future I'll get a notice about something going on there. I want to go see it. It's so close to me. It's kind of a shame. That's new too. That was only built a few years ago. Wasn't here when I first came down to this trail. As a matter of fact, I don't think this was either. This is called a Trail of Tejano Legends. They have, I don't know, several of these along the trail where they pay tribute to Tejano musicians, which most white people have never heard of. It's like I've never heard of these guys. The Perez and the Ramos family. Some of them played jazz, had their own bands, or they played, where they would, they had dance bands, where they would play, what they call Tejano music, which is kind of a mix of the music that was in Mexico with, more American styles, some Western swing, maybe influences. Might have had the influence a little bit of the German community, the Oompa bands, I call them. Of course, a lot of Tejano music has the accordion in it, which probably was brought over from Germany, because I think Germany had a fair number of emigres to Mexico from early on. And there's not in Austin so much, but central Texas and the Hill Country, there's a large German community. Back in the 70s when I was living there, I worked for a little while for some stonemasons who were down in Kerrville. They were from Fredericksburg, which is kind of the center of the Texas German community. And they spoke perfect English, of course, but they also sometimes would speak some form of German to each other. So it was still pretty, that heritage was still pretty much alive.